welcome back to the channel, friends. Today is a deeply reflective day, a quiet moment where the shadows in Genoa City seem just a little bit longer, and the silences between our favorite characters feel incredibly heavy. Grab a warm cup of coffee, settle in with us, and let's just take some time to really unpack the heartbreaking layers of trust, betrayal, and fractured families that are currently shaking the very foundation of the show. I just keep thinking about Abby and Devin. It is honestly so difficult to watch a marriage, a partnership that was built on such a desperate, beautiful desire to bring a child into the world, begin to absolutely crumble under the weight of its own complicated history. When you look at them right now, you do not see the united front that fought so hard for baby Dominic. Instead, you see two people standing on opposite sides of a massive, unbridgeable chasm. And the saddest part is that they both genuinely believe they are doing the right thing for their son. Let's just pause and really look at the core of this new argument. Devin went behind Abby's back. He actually filed a formal legal petition to demand a review of Mariah Copeland's plea deal. He did this without consulting his wife, without sitting down at the kitchen table and holding her hands and explaining his heart. He just did it. And I think that is the first massive crack in their foundation. Abby wishes, with every fiber of her being, that Devin had just talked to her. She wishes he had treated her like an equal partner in this incredibly sensitive situation. But Devin honestly thought they were on the same page. He assumed that because they both suffered through the sheer terror of Dominic's kidnapping, they would both naturally want the harshest possible punishment for the person who took him. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How can two people sleep in the same bed, raise the same child, and be so fundamentally disconnected from each other's internal moral compass? Devin's assumption that Abby would just blindly agree with a vindictive legal maneuver shows a staggering lack of communication in their marriage. And the truth is, Abby is completely torn. She is not entirely sure that Mariah actually deserves to be thrown into a cold, unforgiving prison cell. Abby is a mother who was pushed to the brink of absolute despair when her baby was taken. Yes, but she is also a human being who witnessed Mariah's severe, terrifying mental breakdown. She saw the postpartum psychosis, the deep, dark delusion that led Mariah to believe she was the only one who could protect Dominic. I really feel for Abby in this specific moment. She understands, perhaps better than Devin does, that Mariah was not acting out of malice or pure evil. Mariah was acting out of a shattered psyche. Because of that profound realization, Abby truly believes that a secure mental treatment facility is the absolute best place for Mariah. It is a place where she can be contained, yes, but also healed. Abby is looking at this through a lens of cautious empathy, trying to balance her protective maternal instincts with a basic human understanding of mental illness. Devin, on the other hand, Devin is just consumed by this rigid, unyielding anger. He looks at Mariah, and he does not see a broken surrogate who lost her grip on reality. He sees a criminal. He sees a threat. He firmly believes that Mariah deserves a proper, harsh punishment for her actions. He wants her in jail. He wants the full weight of the justice system to crash down upon her, to make her pay for every single tear that was shed while Dominic was missing. This fundamental disagreement is causing so much friction, so much painful conflict in their marriage. As we see in the upcoming Tuesday episode, this argument is going to explode all over again. Abby is going to completely lose her temper, and honestly, I do not blame her. She is going to snap at Devin for his sheer stubbornness, for this deep-seated bitterness that seems to be rotting his judgment from the inside out. She sees his actions as entirely vindictive, driven by a need for revenge, than a desire for justice or healing. But then we get to the absolute turning point. The moment where this disagreement stops being just a philosophical debate about the justice system and turns into a literal war for the future of their family. Abby, in her desperate attempt to create a safe, predictable environment for her son, decides that they need to draw a hard line in the sand. She drafts a new legal agreement, a binding document designed specifically to severely limit Mariah's visitation rights with Dominic. To Abby, this is just common sense. It is the logical next step. If a woman is mentally unstable enough to kidnap your child, you do not just leave the door open for her to wander back into his life whenever she feels like it. Abby wants to protect Dominic's stability. She wants to build a fortress around her baby, a fortress that cannot be breached by Mariah's erratic emotional tides. She presents this document to Devin, fully expecting him to sign it. After all, he is the one pushing for Mariah to be locked up in a federal prison, right? So surely, he would want to restrict her access to the baby. But he refuses. Devin flat out refuses to sign the agreement. I I cannot even begin to imagine the absolute whiplash Abby must be experiencing in that exact moment. It is a contradiction so massive that it completely shatters her understanding of her husband. Devin, the man who is secretly petitioning the courts to throw Mariah in jail, is simultaneously refusing to limit her legal access to their son. How does that make any sense? When Devin tries to explain himself, it only makes the betrayal cut deeper. He tells Abby that he cannot sign the document because he believes Mariah has a special, inseparable spiritual connection with Dominic. He actually uses those words. He invokes the surrogate bond, the time Mariah spent carrying the child, as some sort of sacred, unbreakable tether that supersedes Abby's need for safety. It is just so incredibly painful to watch. Abby is standing there, holding a piece of paper that is meant to protect her family. And her husband is essentially telling her that the woman who traumatized them all has a spiritual right to remain in their lives forever. Abby becomes instantly, deeply bitter, and who could blame her? She realizes, with a sickening drop in her stomach, that Devin is actively choosing to prioritize Mariah's emotional feelings, her spiritual connection, above his own wife's peace of mind. Abby feels completely abandoned in that moment. She feels like her husband is more concerned with the emotional well-being of their son's kidnapper than he is with the terrifying anxiety that still keeps Abby awake at night. She sees Devin's refusal not just as a disagreement, but as a fundamental betrayal of their marriage and their home. She believes that Devin is sacrificing the safety of their family just to protect a woman who has proven herself to be dangerously obsessed with their son. And so, the Newman DNA finally kicks in. We all know that Abby is Victor Newman's daughter, and when a Newman feels threatened, when they feel betrayed by the people closest to them, they do not just sit down and cry, they go to war. Abby realizes that if Devin will not help her protect Dominic, she is going to have to do it herself, unilaterally. She starts quietly, methodically gathering evidence. She begins compiling every single instance of Mariah losing control, every erratic text message, every unhinged visit, every documented moment of the kidnapping, and the profound mental instability that followed. Abby is building a legal case, brick by brick, entirely on her own. She is preparing to take this to court, to sue for the restriction of visitation rights without Devin's signature, without his blessing, and without his support. When Devin eventually realizes what Abby is doing, the rift between them completely fractures. He looks at his wife, the woman he built this family with, and he calls her cruel. He actually accuses her of being ruthless and tanned on. He cannot fathom how she could so coldly compile evidence against a woman who gave them the greatest gift of their lives, completely ignoring the fact that this same woman nearly destroyed their lives just months later. This is where the tragedy of their relationship truly solidifies. Devin feels that Abby is acting like a cold-hearted corporate lawyer than a compassionate mother. He feels she is erasing the beautiful sacrifice Mariah made. But Abby feels that Devin has already betrayed their family. She believes he has invited a dangerous ghost to live permanently in their home, prioritizing a twisted spiritual bond over the tangible, desperately needed safety of their actual reality. The battle lines are no longer just drawn, the first shots have been fired. The custody battle, the legal war to define the boundaries of Dominic's life, has officially begun, and it is going to tear the Winters and Newman Abbott families apart in ways we haven't seen in years. It is no longer just about Mariah, it is about Devin and Abby realizing they might not actually be meant to raise this child together. But as if the heavy, suffocating atmosphere in the Devin and Abby household wasn't enough to break our hearts, we also have to turn our attention to another deeply tragic situation unfolding across town. Let's take a moment to think about Michael Baldwin and Lauren Finmore Baldwin. I always look at Michael and Lauren as one of the few true anchors in Genoa City. They have survived cancer, infidelity, corporate wars, and literal hostage situations. But right now, Michael is carrying a secret that feels like a ticking time bomb, and it is entirely centered around Victor Newman's ruthless machinations. Picture this. They are sitting down for what is supposed to be a quiet, intimate dinner. The kind of dinner where a husband and wife reconnect after a long, exhausting week. Lauren is likely glowing, excited about her new professional endeavors, feeling confident and secure in her position, which is deeply tied to the Summers Corporation. She is happy, and Michael is sitting across from her, staring at his food, feeling an absolute, crushing wave of guilt washing over him. Michael has recently gathered some highly classified, utterly devastating intelligence from Victor Newman. He knows, as an absolute undeniable fact, that Victor is executing a master plan to completely obliterate Phyllis Summers. Michael has seen the documents. He has heard Victor's cold, calculating voice outlining the exact steps that will bring the Summers Corporation to its knees. He knows that the empire Phyllis built, the empire that Lauren is now professionally entangled with, is on the absolute brink of total collapse. And as he sits across from his beautiful wife, he realizes he cannot keep this from her. He cannot let her walk blindly into a corporate massacre. The internal conflict Michael is experiencing here is just staggering. On one hand, he is Victor Newman's most trusted legal fixer. He is bound by attorney-client privilege, by professional loyalty, and by the sheer, terrifying reality of what happens when you cross Victor. But on the other hand, he is Lauren's husband. He loves her with a fierce, protective devotion that has defined his entire redemption arc on the show. So, he breaks. During this quiet dinner, Michael takes a deep breath, reaches across the table, and confesses everything to Lauren. He tells her the truth about Victor's war. He tells her that the Summers Corporation is failing, that it is being systematically dismantled, and that her new job, her security, and her best friend's entire legacy are about to go up in smoke. I can only imagine the look of pure, unadulterated shock on Lauren's face as the words leave his mouth. The silence that must follow that confession. Lauren is fiercely loyal to Phyllis. They are best friends. They have fought side by side in the trenches of Genoa City social and corporate wars for decades. Hearing that her husband is intimately aware of and perhaps professionally adjacent to the destruction of her best friend's life is going to be a massive, bitter pill to swallow. Lauren is going to feel betrayed, not just by Victor, but by the universe. She is going to realize that her new career path is nothing more than a house of cards waiting for Victor to blow it down. And Michael has to sit there and watch the light fade from her eyes, knowing that his confession, while necessary to protect her, has just fundamentally altered the safety of their own world. It really makes you step back and look at the overarching theme of these storylines. We have Devon betraying Abby's sense of safety to protect the surrogate's spiritual bond. We have Victor betraying Phyllis, forcing Michael into a position where he has to break his wife's heart to save her from the fallout. It is all about the collateral damage of loyalty. Who do you protect when the people you love are at war with each other? For Abby, the answer is simple. She protects Dominic, even if it means destroying her marriage and dragging Mariah through a vicious legal battle. She is embracing the cold, hard logic of survival, gathering her evidence, and preparing to stand alone in a courtroom if she has to. She will not let Devon's guilt or his misplaced spiritual beliefs put her son at risk. She is becoming the warrior mother she never wanted to be, but absolutely has to be. For Devon, he is lost in a maze of his own contradictions. He wants legal vengeance against Mariah, but emotional proximity. He is trying to play the role of the benevolent patriarch and the vengeful victim at the exact same time, and it is tearing his family apart. He cannot see that calling his wife cruel for trying to protect their child is the ultimate cruelty itself. And for Michael and Lauren, they are about to be dragged into a corporate bloodbath that will test the very limits of their marriage. Lauren will undoubtedly want to rush to Phyllis's side, to warn her, to help her fight back against Victor. But Michael is tethered to Victor's dark empire. How can they navigate this without turning on each other? It is a beautiful, tragic, incredibly complex mess. The writers are really diving deep into the psychological scars of these characters right now. They are not just giving us surface-level arguments, they are digging into the deep, unresolved traumas of kidnapping, surrogacy, corporate loyalty, and the terrifying realization that the person you share your life with might be the very person who brings your world crashing down. As we look ahead to these upcoming episodes, I just urge everyone to really watch the subtle expressions on these actors' faces. Watch the way Abby's jaw sets when she realizes she has to fight Devon. Watch the way Devon's eyes harden when he defends Mariah. Watch the quiet, agonizing guilt in Michael's posture as he shatters Lauren's reality. These are the moments that make the show so profoundly compelling. It is the raw, unfiltered humanity of people making impossible choices, hurting the ones they love, and desperately trying to survive the fallout. We will definitely be keeping a very close eye on how this custody battle and this corporate collapse unfold, because nothing in Genoa City is ever going to be the same after this.